We'll begin the meeting in just a moment, and during the meeting there will be an opportunity because we want to raise a toast together. So over in the corner, Bob and Sally are staffing, and also Ernie are staffing the mimosa station, so you can have one. You can have just plain orange juice, or there's also sparkling ciders that are non-alcoholic over here. And if you're the kind of person who likes to raise a cup of coffee at a toast, we won't shame you for that. You can do that as well. So just prepare yourself. In a few moments, we'll be doing the beginning of our meeting and some toasts. All right, this is your last chance to go get your glass filled before we begin. So the bartenders did such a good job. They've prepped enough for another annual meeting to happen. So please do go help yourself to that. I call this 2026 annual meeting of St. John the Evangelist Episcopal Church in St. Paul, Minnesota to order. Welcome to your annual meeting. It is good to be together after, as Judy said in her sermon, these few months that have been harder than usual, to say the least. I'm aiming for Midwestern understatement this morning. It is a delight to see so many of you here today, and a deep thank you to all who brought delicious food today. I know we'll do thank yous in a moment, but can we express our gratitude to the fellowship and to each of you who brought food? If you will join me for a moment, you can stay seated for this, but our musician of the hour, Richard, will come and lead us in our hymn that we have used throughout this capital campaign. It's found on page 2 of that massive report you have in front of you. All are welcome. Let's sing together this hymn one more time as we honor the end of this season of fundraising and all of the work of the year past. A quick note, as is printed in your annual report, and hopefully you've had a chance to peruse that over your meal and conversation or in the week leading up to this event. As per the St. John's bylaws, only communicants in good standing over 16 years of age are eligible to vote in that moment when we do our voting here in a little bit. That is anyone who has been baptized, confirmed, or received or had their baptismal records transferred into the care of St. John's Parish for the previous year, having been worshiping here, or unless for good cause prevented and have been faithful in working, praying, and giving for the spread of the kingdom of God, and are financial contributors to the parish of record. If you're unsure about your status, you can check in with some of our staff members. Judy Stack has her hand up. She's happy to pull up the parish directory and find that information, just if you're wondering. May I have a motion to approve last year's minutes starting on page 3 of your report? A motion to approve the minutes from last year. It's been moved. Is there a second? Second. All in favor of approving last year's minutes, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed may say nay. Anyone abstaining? Fantastic. Thank you for your work, congregation. Well, we move first into that which is most celebratory, and then I'm excited to have Carrie Keeler, our co-chair for our capital and annual campaigns this year, come to give us a little more color on this year's stewardship report. But first, can we raise our glass in cheers to all of the hard work that went into this year's stewardship work at St. John's? Cheers. In a moment, you'll probably want to raise your glass again because Carrie has some additional news and reporting to do, but I'll let her come and I won't steal her thunder. Cheers.
Good morning. What a year for stewardship at St. John's. There is so much to be grateful for and to be excited about. In 2025, we worked with our consultants at Vandersall Collective to help us envision how we want to use our building and financial resources in the future. We tested potential projects and costs in a feasibility study, made plans to raise funds for renovation projects, a building reserve fund for future needs, and a bridge fund to help our annual budget in times when we need a little extra annual income for our mission and ministries. We set goals to examine our own money narratives, to engage more leaders in stewardship work, and to invite as many of our members as possible to be involved, recognizing that gifts of all sizes are necessary for this work. So we had 3 financial goals. Our first was to raise $2,755,500 for the capital campaign. Our second goal was to raise $716,000 for the annual campaign. And lastly, we hope to stretch a little bit more by raising an additional $209,012.36. Just kidding. And I have such good news. We did it. We raised 100% of all of those goals, plus extra to our annual goal, which folded over into our stretch goal, which means our stretch goal is actually at 110%, not 100%. Yeah. Seriously amazing. Do you need to say a word, or should I just keep going? Okay. So in total, we have raised $3,702,046 for the mission of raising up the foundations of many generations. And in addition to meeting our financial goals, we met all of those other non-financial goals as well. So we are so thankful to everyone who gave, all who served, and all who led in this work. You're making St. John's a place that repairs and restores, and that seeks justice through the mission and ministry of this place and the building we call home. And speaking of being thankful, Some very special people who helped make all of this happen deserve recognition. So I am going to call out names of the individual Capital Campaign Committee co-chairs and you kind of name their teams. And after I've called everyone's name, I'll have all of you stand up and we'll hold that round of applause for the end. So I first want to thank my Capital Campaign co-chair, Don Weinkoff, who couldn't be here today. Don is so knowledgeable about our building and has an eye for detail when it comes to the campaign projects. He also has a knack for soothing anxious nerves, and he talked me down more than once. One of the first things the campaign addressed was advanced gifts. And for that phase, we give thanks to Alice Leitner-Johnson, Holly Weinkoff, and their team. They got us off to a strong and hopeful start. Next, how great was our campaign kickoff party in November? Yes, thank you to Susan Creel, Bob Bauman, and the rest of the events committee for thinking of every detail for that event and others so that we can celebrate with each other. Following the kickoff event, Congregational Gifts stepped up to the plate and they hit it out of the park, literally. For that work, we are thankful for Lynn Hertz, Sally Sand, and their squad of inviters. Throughout the whole campaign, Allison Brown, our communications chair, kept all of us updated through joyful and encouraging email blasts. Her writing is like sunlight hitting water and brightening everything around it, even on the gloomiest days. Also working diligently during the whole campaign was our Spiritual Emphasis Committee, led by Jax Collins and Dan Vogel. Their team prayed for and encouraged each one of us, and I know I can speak for everyone when I say that we are so grateful for their pastoral care during this campaign. Abby Johnson worked as coordinator for the campaign, keeping our I's dotted, our T's crossed, and completing many of the behind-the-scenes tasks to keep the campaign moving along and organized. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that St. John staff members also went above and beyond their typical job duties for this campaign. Thank you. It did not go unnoticed. And likewise for our consultants at Vandersall Collective, who shared their expertise and guided us through this process. And last, but absolutely not least, our courageous rector, Jared, who spoke wisdom, truth, and love to us and helped us keep our focus where it needed to be, because this campaign was so much more than about fundraising, so thank you. So, yes, if I called your name, if you were on a committee, if you worked on the campaign in any way, please stand up so we can all share a round of applause. Thank you so much.
And can we give it up for Carrie Keeler, who didn't name herself? I know they're watching online, but Mika Vandersall and Tim, we're so grateful for the leadership you gave us, as Carrie said, and for the many gifts that you gave. I want to just say a quick note, because the Capital Campaign isn't really over. It will remain open. As you saw, my announcement last week was not the announcement that you just heard. It was a number that shifted by $90,000 in 1 week. And that is to say that gifts will continue to come in to the work of this church and the repair that we hope to do for the help of the world, the restoration of that which is broken. And so we're excited to leave that door wide open. It's also important to note that as we move now from the avid fundraising stage into the implementation stage, that I'm delighted that a team is being constructed led by Don Weinkoff and others who are going to see about how we scale the projects over the course of the next 5 years so that they are funded in a way that is sustainable and achievable, and that gives regular updates to each of you who have invested so deeply of your own resources, not only in helping this building be a thriving place, but that our ministries through it will continue to serve the community beyond our doors. Thank you, thank you, thank you to each person who will continue to help St. John's build up the foundations of many generations. So from the stewardship report, all things sublime, we go to, it's not mundane, is it, Rick? To the most anticipated finance report in the Episcopal Church, Rick Rinkoff.
Good morning. It sounds like my financial report is going to be like taking a back seat to what Gary just told us. I last stood up here January 25th, 2025, our last annual meeting. I never imagined the chaos we'd lived through in the year that followed. It's been a daily, exhausting drama. So, I'm going to talk about good things that happened. St. John's fared well in the face of all that chaos. We ended the year with a small surplus, and we completed a successful multi-million-dollar capital campaign, as you just heard. Jared will give us more details on that later, but I'm going to focus on the financials. Last year's surplus was $1,400, very close to what we expected, but we didn't get there the way that we expected. Pledges were under budget, but non-pledged income and rental income from the building was higher than expected and offset the pledges. Ministry expenses were nicely under budget, but offset by higher admin and building and grounds spending. That's not new. Bottom line, essentially, break-even year. Thanks to all of you who paid your pledges early in the year. Our expenses are fairly uniform through the year, and when you pay early, it eases our cash flow problems. Also means you won't have to get reminders every quarter. So please continue that trend this year as well. 2025 was helped by $86,000 of non-recurring, in other words, one-time revenue. $50,000 from an additional endowment draw, and $36,000 that was donated to fund a building and grounds fund. The Finance Committee was well aware a year ago that it was going to be a challenge to balance the 26 budget. We had an $86,000 hole to fill. We could keep ministry costs in line, but operating costs and compensation were sure to increase. The committee wrestled all year with how to close that gap. We had the concept of a plan. Actually, several plans. Maybe our congregation would generate an $86,000 in pledges. No. Vandersall told us that while doing a capital campaign, pledges should remain flat to maybe up a little bit. They did grow $13,000, about 2%, but $86,000, no way. Maybe our endowment would help bridge the gap like it did in 2025. No, the Cornerstone trustees said 28% of our revenue is already coming from the trust, so they opted not to change their historic 4.25% draw rate. Maybe we could reduce, ready, staff positions and hours. No, total staff compensation accounts for 2/3 of our spending, but neither the Finance Committee or the vestry wanted to go that way. We didn't want to compromise the ministries. Yet, we have a 2026 balanced budget. Treasurer magic? No. When the capital campaign set a goal last summer, they had the foresight and wisdom to include a stretch goal, money that could be used to help balance what they knew was going to be a challenging 2026 budget. Last Sunday, literally 1 hour before the vestry voted to approve the budget, Jared announced St. John's had not only fulfilled the main goal of the campaign, but had entered stretch goal territory. You can see that $60,000 of the stretch goal dollars are included in the revenue this year, as well as $19,000 from our membership engagement fund, the fund that has really never been used. Budget problem solved. Or is it? I usually ask if there are any questions at the end, but I'm going to pose one myself. Given what it took to balance the 25 and 26 budgets, is St. John's financially sustainable? Here, I'm comforted by the wisdom of perhaps the most patient and successful investor of all time, Warren Buffett. You can see I also quoted him last year, but this is a different quote. To slightly paraphrase him, The pace of the Earth's movement around the sun is not synchronized with the time required for operating strategies to bear fruit. You get all that? So, do we have an operating strategy? And when's it going to bear fruit? For starters, look around the room. There's many new faces here. It's not by chance. Dr. Judy Stack and Jared have worked very hard to grow membership. We have dozens of non-members in our building every week. We got 12-step groups, we got bridge players, parents of Big Wonder, preschoolers, concert growers. We had hundreds of people attend the candlelight vigil and sip and sing. Our neighbors frequent the farmers market in the summer. We encourage visitors to attend a service and hear our excellent preachers, listen to our wonderful music, and feel welcomed in our beautiful church. With what's going on in the Twin Cities right now, St. John's is not a hard sale. More and more children and youth are joining the faith formation programs. Who wouldn't want to go to a mission trip to Croatia? The increase is promising because in the long term, last I checked, kids are a great source of adults. There are numerous benefits to growth, but more pledges to help to close the gap between revenue and expenses is one of them. New members usually start with small pledges, but they grow nicely over time. Will that growth be enough? Or is our vision really an hallucination? The difference is the number of people who can see it. And here's what I see. Behind you, an outdated kitchen. Close your eyes. Imagine a kitchen with a fully functioning dishwasher, ice machine, warming oven, countertop cooking appliances that will vastly improve our ability to provide food for events like this. Add in safe, up-to-date, and up-to-code ventilation, wiring, and plumbing. In front of the kitchen, a lounge for meetings or breakfast or extra prep space. And over there, way back there, where we used to store things for the long ago huge sale, a new gathering space for mid-sized groups, Bible study, 12-step groups, community theater groups to work on their next performance. Right now, meeting space is at a premium in this building, and Sarah has to constantly juggle where to put people. We can solve that problem. Shift your imagination upstairs. A revitalized fireside room with audio-visual capabilities, comfortable new furniture, a stain-free carpet. Down the hall, updated office space, and 3 new accessible bathrooms. Rumor has it, they might even be soundproof. Finally, we're creating a large building reserve fund. We had a study done in 2019, and I've got to give Tom Evans credit for it because he's the one who spearheaded and frankly paid for it. The study said, how much would it cost to maintain our building's physical assets for the next 30 years? The study recommended that we put aside, now don't laugh at this, $128,000 the first year and increase it with inflation every year after. Our new building reserve fund will see us through many years of those costs. I know from experience that every few years something goes horribly wrong in our building. We get a leak in the undercroft and we have to dig up Kent Street sidewalk. Remember that? The roof leaked. We had to fix that. Tuck pointing, necessary painting, the list goes on and on. Historically, the only way to pay for these was to borrow money. Now we'll have the money. You heard about these projects during the capital campaign and you offered feedback. As Jared said, the committee is being formed to consider the feedback, refine the remodeling plans, and work with architects and contractors so that we can move forward. Stay tuned. I grew up in a little town north of New York City. My grandparents all lived in the Bronx. When I visited my maternal grandfather, we used to walk over to the original Yankee Stadium. And of course, I became a Yankees fan. I watched Mickey Mantle hit home runs. I watched Don Larson, Whitey Ford strike out countless batters. Later in life, I marveled at the twisted wisdom of, you know who, Yogi Berra. Here they all are. The whole team. as they appeared in 1959, which is when I would go. This team, oh, hang on a minute. Yogi's saying something. What's that? He's reminding me that if you don't know where you're going, you're liable to end up somewhere else. Thanks for the advice, Yogi, but at St. John's, we do know where we're going. We've adopted Apple Computer's philosophy. The best way to predict the future is to invent it. We're inventing new spaces, meaningfully different, not better sameness. Will that spur growth in membership? Likely. Will it inspire members to continue to support St. John's? Look no further than what Carrie just told us. We grew pledges to a record level, and we did it while simultaneously raising 4 times as much money in the capital campaign. Many of you gave generously to both. That's no hallucination. Thank you for proving that St. John's has a deep level of support. We also have a $9.5 million endowment. Last year, the endowment increased $1.1 million when you include the money we took out in our annual draw. Some pundits say the stock market is defying gravity. Now, I worked in the investment business for 47 years, and that statement puzzled me. So you know what I did? I went out and I bought a book about anti-gravity. It was fascinating. I just couldn't put it down. We also, the stock market has gone up 3 years in a row. We know that if something can't go on forever, it will stop. That's why we use a 12-quarter moving average of the values to smooth out our annual 4.25% draw. Backing out the one-time $50,000 contribution last year, our moving average generally produces an increasing amount of revenue for the church every year. Now, stop to consider the strong likelihood that the endowment receives additional contributions. That will add to the draw. I say strong because many parishioners, including many in this room, are following in the footsteps of previous generations and have named St. John's in their will. If you're not already a member of this group, but you want to be, come talk to me. Together, our endowment and capital campaign pledges exceed $12 million. But I'm looking at our most important asset. That's you, our parishioners who have always risen to the occasion. That's why I don't think we should be too worried about how many revolutions around the sun are needed before it's no longer a challenge to balance the annual budget. As Jared will tell you, we have the concept of a plan to balance the 2027 budget. But I won't be the one telling you about it because I am retiring as treasurer after being elected to a 3-year term in 2012. The vestry will soon elect David Brousseau, who's sitting right over there. We've been working together for over a year. Here's how I described him in last year's annual meeting. David is a retired professor of mathematics, most recently at Macalester. He's authored many books and articles, gave talks in 5 different countries in 2024, and 5 also last year. He has his own website and even a theorem named after him. With a PhD in math and experience running nonprofit organizations, David is clearly a numbers guy, someone you can count on. I have one more. I've enjoyed my 14 years as treasurer and thank all of you for putting up with my goofy comments every year. I'm going to miss that part of the job. I am, however, remaining on the Finance Committee, which is composed mostly of current and former treasurers. We should call it Hotel St. John's. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. Before I turn it over to Jared, are there any questions? Jared, it's up to you.
Rick tried to walk off with my speech here. I think you got it. Thank you, Rick. become something of an annual tradition of late to say what an unprecedented year the preceding 12 months have been. So much so that what is felt unprecedented is actually beginning to feel quite precedented. The litanies of traumas and struggles we've faced as a state in our Twin Cities, in our country, and in the world in just a little over 5 years seems too much. And yet we know that this kind of pain and struggle have indeed been well known for generations, if not always in communities like ours where privilege and comfort have been the norm for most of our history, then in the lives of our immigrant, queer, and black and brown neighbors. But what these often marginalized communities have shown is that there is a vast wealth of knowledge, a whole curricula for transformation of culture and systems of oppression, and that there are strategies for survival and community care well documented and available for all who are willing to listen, for those who are willing to join in solidarity with the movement for justice that has been ongoing for centuries in our country. What's more, communities on the margins have been teaching us for generations that there is more to this work than struggle and pain. For these communities have shown us what it looks like to find joy and laughter, celebration and connection, not in spite of the struggle, not in spite of the pain, but often right in the midst of it. So this morning, or is it afternoon yet? Almost. We gather amidst an ongoing occupation of our cities by a racist, colonizing system of violent oppression, and we dare to celebrate what it means to be a community in love with each other and in love with the God of justice, whose presence in our lives is bringing forth healing and reconciliation and new life. We will and have already been celebrating and continue to celebrate our victories and our accomplishments, and we will express our joy at being part of the unfolding work of following Jesus humbly in his way of love. This year has been full of things, as we've already heard, for which to give thanks to God. We rejoice at the many new members who have begun to make this their faith community, not just for their pledges and their gifts, but because of who and whose they are. And for the surge in attendance that shows that our ministries, our worship, formation, music, and fellowship, as well as the shared work of serving our neighbors and participating in acts of racial justice, are connecting with a growing community of people who are hungry for spiritual connection and a place to create meaningful relationships with neighbors and with God. We've seen a dramatic increase in the use of our building, again, as has already been pointed out, by our immediate neighborhood, with things like constitutional observer training for hundreds, first aid training for dozens more, and community organizing happening each Sunday afternoon here in this space. We've added 12-step groups, and we've continued to nurture partnerships with House of Prayer, who kindly worship and meditate on the stage behind dividers to make space for the rest of the program of this church. Organizations like Artaria that sift into the crooks and nooks and crannies of our church to practice their stringed instruments. For Big Wonder, who is turning the meager loaves and fishes of our education wing into an abundant feast of racial justice, transformational education for the youngest kids in our cities, starting a new model of education that has never been seen in our country, that takes Montessori and combines it with gender and racial equity concepts. I am so proud of the shift that I have seen underway in our faith community, where more and more of you are getting directly involved in the work for racial reconciliation and healing, not sitting on the side and just learning about it or praising those who are doing it. You yourselves are putting your lives into that work and finding ways to seek justice in a broken world. So many of you have been guarding the entrance for the big wonder children, as Judy pointed out this morning in her beautiful sermon. More of you have given food and supplies and have stepped up as servants to the hungry and the unhoused through mutual aid and direct service than in any year that I can remember at St. John's. You're out marching in protests, writing letters to your representatives, some of you so many times they may know you now on a first-name basis and or by your handwriting. You're speaking up with a clear voice, a voice that is informed by your faith and reminding the world that people of faith can stand for decency, that people of faith can stand for love of neighbors, and not just the tribal political partisanship that protects the status quo. Our Racial Reconciliation Holy Eucharist and our guest preacher series continue to be our best attended Sundays. And I know this is in large part because you too are hungry to hear from the saints of our tradition what are the practices that will nourish long-term and sustainable work for justice. This hunger is being answered by a growing shift in our liturgical life. If you thought what we have done already was a shift, wait for it, it's coming. There's more. That now honors not only racial justice, but justice for all genders, sexualities, and intersecting identities of our diverse community. We see this in our upcoming preaching series throughout Lent that focuses on the feminine divine, where we will only hear the voices of women in our pulpit. And we will only hear the stories of figures who have worked for gender justice across the ages. And we are hearing it too in the work spearheaded by the team who are working with our grant for the visual arts and intergenerational liturgy called Imaging and Imagining. Wait till you see the beautiful artwork that Chris Sanders has been generating for this season coming up. There are so many things to celebrate, not least of which, as Rick and Carrie have already highlighted, but I'm going to say it again because I'm so excited about it, that you helped us raise a record total for our annual budget, a record in this year. More than 100% of our goal, in addition to that $2.7 million for capital improvements and our building, also 100% of our goal and improvements that will help us serve our wider community and continue to be a space of reconciliation and healing for those without space to gather and connect in the world around us. And as if that weren't enough, we didn't raise just the 110% of the stretch goal. You all are amazing. Can we give everyone here another round of applause? You have generated the means by which we will be able to have a bridge for budgets in years to come so that we can talk about our money narratives and seek justice without the fear hanging over our heads that we will not have enough, which is heresy in a community that has the kind of abundance that we have access to. And you did this in the midst of an apocalypse, all while giving generously to so many other causes, because I know you're a generous people. I could not be more proud of this community. Thank you. And as Carrie already said, thank you to the chairs and the co-chairs and the dozens of volunteers who helped us achieve this set of historic fundraising goals. As I conclude my 15th year as your rector, Rick had to be with me through all of that. Thank you, Rick. I remain deeply grateful for the privilege of serving in ministry among you. I'm so thankful for the most amazing staff, honestly the best that there is in the Episcopal Church. I can say that unbiased. For the talent and dedication of these amazing servants of God who walk alongside us and help us implement the work that we've been called to do. I'm thankful for dedicated and faithful vestry leaders, including those who will rotate off today and those we are about to elect. The work ahead is not going to be easy. The threats of a government dedicated to a racist and violent ideology, uncaring for the victims of the depraved acts of powerful men and women and their quest to remain in power indefinitely, are but the latest expression of a system as old as our nation that is intertwined with almost every aspect of our lives. including even the church. Disentangling ourselves from this toxic and deadly and sinful web will take our ongoing, persistent, and faithful efforts over many years to come, and it will take the very grace of God. Yet we can do this with great joy. We can do this with celebration, for the saints have shown us how. In every generation. Together, we can continue to raise up new foundations for the work of repair and restoration for many generations yet to come. Faithfully submitted on this, the 15th of February, 2026, your rector, Jared. Just tears of joy. Not at all. It's tired. I'm going to go take a nap after this. Well, with that, any questions about the state of the church, large or small, granular or large? All right. Well, then we pivot to further gratitudes. And for that, I'll invite our outgoing senior warden, Betty Ashcroft, who will come to offer Thanksgiving and presentations of gifts to our outgoing vestry members. Can we welcome Betty to the microphone?
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Jared. Thank you, everyone, for being here. It's my great privilege and pleasure to stand and offer thanksgiving for leadership in this parish, specifically to our leaders from the vestry. But before I do that, I would also like to tell you a joke. And this is a joke at the expense of the priest. The priest is standing at the door of the church, and the congregation is filing out, and one of the congregants says to the priest, "That was a good sermon." The priest says, "Thank you. It wasn't me. It was God." And the congregant said, "Well, it wasn't that good." But I'll tell you, God has been that good in this parish in this year and during this capital campaign. All that God and the Spirit has been working through each and every one of you and those that aren't with us who have partnered in this capital campaign and in this vision of the future that is going to be so powerful. And I have so much gratitude for all of you leaders who have given sacrificially to this church. And speaking of sacrificial giving, I'd also like to mention, now Simon, Henry, and Jude aren't sitting here at the moment, but I was going to use them as examples of people who do give sacrificially to St. John's. Giving sacrificially is not just about giving money. It's about getting up on Sunday morning when you're a teenager and putting on a dress and having to process down the aisle when you'd probably rather be in bed sleeping. There are so many of us that spend time and energy doing things that need to be done around here, and that we do it because we love this place. Maybe we do it because we respect and love our parents. I don't know, maybe. We hope. I don't think, but I do think that the young people in this congregation, we're seeing more and more of them. Kathy, your grandson, reading in the service, that is just, it's so encouraging and inspiring to me. I learned to love this, I learned to love prayer and sacraments by being raised in the Catholic Church. And I learned to love Christian community by being involved in Young Life as a teenager. Now, I would like to know, in this room, please raise your hand if you were one of the people who can say they have an active and alive faith today because you had an experience as a teenager or young person that transformed you. Yeah, I mean, this is the work we're doing, folks. These are the foundations that we are raising up for the next generation. And I think that one of the most urgent imperatives of the church today is to rebuild trust with the generations that are coming after us. So I so appreciate, please tell Jared and Ern, please tell Jude and Simon Henry how much we appreciate their presence with us on Sunday mornings. And we really do. It means a lot to have them with us. So, moving on to the vestry. Tisha Colton and Barb Tani are two vestry members that would be here with us today and had planned to be at the annual meeting, but then when we had to change it, couldn't change their travel plans. So Tisha and Barb, if you're watching this on YouTube, we miss you and we appreciate you and we love you. But we do have Sally Sand and Jeff Chen, and I would like to invite you to come up now to the podium so that we can thank you for serving on the vestry of St. John's. This is a Book of Common Prayer that I hope you'll treasure it and receive with our thanks, because these two have spent many hours making difficult decisions on behalf of our parish. So thank you. And thank you for letting me use the podium and the microphone to do my little thing for youth ministry.
Thank you, Betty. Well, don't go too far, Betty. You can stay there. And we do thank yous each year as well to those who are rotating not only off of the vestry, but also out of the key leadership positions. And the wardens and treasurers rotate, well, not every 3 years in the case of the treasurer, although we aspire to that, right, David? And also our wardens. So I'm going to have a gift for both of you. Well, we'll start with Betty. And these are best if opened in front of people. So Betty, I'll let you take whichever one you want first.
All right, how about this one?
So each gift was chosen with the person in mind. And when I think of Betty, I, like many of you, have seen Betty lead not only with fierce voice at meetings and advocating for right action and justice in our community, but also as a servant leader, someone who shows up always with food and drink abundant so that we can have a joyful and celebratory time. So your table will hopefully be gladdened by these two additional items here. Well, not food, but it'll accompany the food well. Because every table needs to have something to light the way. Some new candlesticks for the table, made by our local artist here in the Twin Cities. And I'll let Betty open this with some space, but also, I'm going to spoil it for you, another beautiful serving bowl that will hopefully be a piece of art on your table as well. And when you're looking at those things, I hope you'll remember the ways in which you have taught us to be hospitable. And then also, because you deserve a meal out, there's a gift certificate to Nightingale there, so enjoy. Yes. Rick, what do you get for the man who has everything? Well, one, you want a tangible and visual reminder of the ministry that you have carried these almost 15 years. And so to that end, I went not quite as far back as Yogi Berra, but maybe that old. A vintage calculator with receipt. I don't even know what these are called, but it has the crank handle and everything. So Rick, I hope you have on your bookshelf. This is a monument to the numbers you have crunched over the years at St. John's. But as the man says, but wait, there's more. Rick never missed an opportunity to show up with a good Coca-Cola to the places where the rest of us were not behaving as well. So Rick, here are some celebratory Cokes. And you're a tennis guy, so go get some new gear on us with a gift certificate to Shields. All right? Can we give a round of applause to Rick?
I'm sure there's a spot on my bookcase where I can add this.
Yes, I'm sure. I said one more, Rick. You had one more. I'm going to have to take a Coke at the end of this. A special thank you to each leader who is rotating out of a ministry this year. So many people run so many different committees each year, and we're grateful to each of you. We've managed to capture some of those names in the annual report. If we missed yours, please let me know so that we can send out a thank you as well. Thank you again, Rick and Betty, for your faithful leadership to this place. We're so grateful for each of you. Now we turn to our final business, and that is the election of new leaders. For that work, please turn to page 28 of your annual report. We'll do this by category. Hopefully you've had a chance to peruse through the biographies for each of the folks standing for an elected position. For a 3-year term, replacing those who have just finished their 3-year term, we will be electing Patty Ball as representative for Faith in Action, Maura Donovan for vestry member at large, Caleb Moxley for vestry member at large, and Jim Pfau for vestry member at large. Although if we had a position for 8 o'clock congregation representative, Jim would stand for that. So, do I have a motion to elect these members by acclamation? It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion of the matter? All right, all in favor of approving this slate of 3-year candidates, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Welcome to the vestry, you new members. And then, because David will be coming over to be treasurer in replacement of Rick, who is rotating off, he is vacating the final year of his 3-year term on vestry. And so to stand in his place as a representative for pastoral care and a liaison to the pastoral care committee, Betsy Wehrwein is standing. Do I have a motion to elect Betsy? It's been moved and it's been seconded. Is there any comments or questions? All right, all in favor of electing Betsy, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Welcome to the vestry, Betsy. And already serving at the bar as warden, we are to elect our wardens each year for another term of 1 year for a grand total of 2 years at each post. So to stand for his first year as senior warden, we will be electing Bob Bauman, and for his first year as junior warden, we'll be electing Brad Parsons. Do I have a motion for this slate of wardens? It's been moved and it has been seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Congratulations, Bob and Brad. Welcome to wardening. And then this afternoon, we are also electing, as a congregation, members to a 3-year term as Cornerstone trustees. It should be noted that the Cornerstone Trust is a separate institution from St. John's, who are led by members of St. John's for the benefit of St. John's. So all leaders on the trust are elected from the congregation by the congregation. So for that, I'll ask a motion to approve the slate of candidates, which would be Tom Baxter and Jay Deberton. It's been moved and it has been seconded. Any conversation? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Welcome back to another 3-year term, Tom and Jay. And then each year, under our outgoing senior warden's leadership, we have added this category of in memoriam, and for that, I'll ask Betty to come back to recognize those whom we have loved and lost in the year past.
Thank you, Jared. Excuse me. We recall those whom we have lost in this last year, their gifts, and the many ways that they cared for our community. Phyllis Frisbee, Catherine Severance, John Graham, Katie Farseth. Is there anyone that I've not said? Let's just take a moment. Thank you.
And now, to conclude our time, I'll invite Jax Collins, who is one of the co-chairs of our Spiritual Life Committee for the Capital Campaign, to lead us all in our Capital Campaign Collect one final time. Please stand.
Yeah. It's on page 32 if you'd like to read along. O God, whose love knows no end and whose dwelling is with the humble and generous of heart, inspire in us a spirit of holy generosity. Free us from the fear that clings to wealth, so that through our giving, opening our hands and trust and joy, we may become repairers of the breach, builders of a house where love can dwell and all are welcome. Make of this campaign more than bricks and mortar, but instead a living sign of your kingdom, where justice is sown, compassion takes root, and your grace flows freely through your people. Through Jesus Christ, who with you and the Holy Spirit lives and reigns, one God, now and forever. Amen.
Thus concludes the 2026 annual meeting of St. John the Evangelist Episcopal Church. Thank you for being here today. If you brought food, please know we had so much of it, you may need to take it home with you. So if you brought a dish, please take that dish and its contents to a neighbor near you if you need to provide leftovers to others. And a little help at cleaning up would be most appreciated. If you can linger, we'll definitely use all hands that can do it. Thank you again, and a round of applause to all of you.